You think you're a free thinker. You believe your decisions are your own. You tell yourself you see through the games people play. But right now, in this moment, someone in your life is pulling a string attached to you, and you are moving exactly the way they want you to move. Not because you're stupid. Because you were never taught to see it. The moment you need something from someone, approval, validation, a yes, a response, a reaction, you lose. That need is a leash. And whoever holds the other end of it owns you. Not legally. Not physically. Psychologically. Completely. You are being controlled and you don't even see it. What you're about to learn is not motivation. This is not a pep talk. What this is a surgical dismantling of every invisible chain that has been wrapped around your behavior, your emotions, and your identity. The law of psychological leverage. The architecture of control without force. Once you see how this works, you will never unsee it. You will never walk into a room the same way again. You will never sit across from another person, friend, enemy, partner, rival, without understanding exactly what is happening beneath the surface of every interaction. This changes everything. Let's start by naming the enemy. Because the enemy isn't the person manipulating you. The enemy is the psychological condition that makes manipulation possible in the first place. Most people move through their entire lives reacting. Someone ignores them, they feel anxious. Someone praises them, they feel euphoric. Someone withdraws, they chase. Someone pushes, they collapse or they explode. They are not living. They are responding. They are instruments that other people play. The average person has been conditioned since childhood to seek external confirmation that they exist, that they matter, that they are safe, that they are enough. School rewarded compliance. Relationships rewarded agreeableness. Society rewarded performance for an audience. And so people become addicted. Not to drugs. To reactions. To being seen a certain way. To being responded to in a particular manner. They need the world's feedback to know who they are. This is the weakness. This is the crack in the wall. And anyone who understands power, consciously or instinctively, finds that crack and applies pressure. They don't need weapons. They don't need threats. They just need to control the signal. Give you approval, then take it away. Create urgency, then pull back. Make you feel chosen, then make you feel replaceable. And watch you destroy yourself trying to restore the equilibrium they deliberately disrupted. Weak men beg to be seen. They perform. They explain themselves. They overjustify. They shrink in front of authority and expand in front of an audience. They are permanently on stage, performing a character they believe other people want, terrified that the curtain will drop and there will be nothing behind it. That is the invisible enemy. Not them. The condition. The dependency. The hunger for external validation that leaves you perpetually exposed. And they want you to stay in it. The system, the social hierarchy, the people who benefit from your compliance, they need you reactive, emotional, predictable. A predictable man is a controllable man. You are not that man anymore. 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli wrote something that the civilized world has spent 5 centuries pretending he didn't mean. He wrote that the prince who relies on luck will fall when luck abandons him. That the only durable power is power built on structure, on understanding human nature at its most honest, most unromantic, most operational level. Machiavelli was not evil. He was precise. He looked at how power actually moved in the world, not how people wished it moved, not how priests said it should move, and he described it. He understood that men are moved by fear and love, and that fear is more reliable because men will disappoint you when their self-interest conflicts with their affection. He understood that appearances govern reality in social environments. That the perception of strength creates strength. That hesitation signals weakness. That whoever controls the frame of an interaction controls the outcome. History has never rewarded emotional availability. It has rewarded those who understood the game while others were still arguing about whether the game was fair. Power has never been distributed to those who needed it most. It flows to those who understand its mechanics and are willing to operate accordingly. This is not cynicism. This is clarity. Here is the promise. By the time this is finished, you will understand how psychological leverage operates at every level of human interaction. You will understand how it has been used on you. You will understand how to remove yourself from its reach. And you will understand how to apply it with precision when necessary. You will become impossible to manipulate. Not because you will become cold, but because you will become clear. You will stop being someone's instrument and start being the one who understands the instrument. You will never see a conversation the same way. You will never interpret silence the same way. You will never confuse someone's performed emotion with their actual intention. After this, you cannot go back. The man who does not know how traps work walks into them. The man who understands trap mechanics moves through the world differently. More slowly. More deliberately. More dangerously calm. You will never see people the same. Number 1. Understand that leverage is always about dependency, and dependency is always about need. Psychological leverage has one root. 1. Whoever needs the outcome more has less power. That is the entire law in a single sentence. Everything else is application. When you need someone to approve of you, they have leverage over your self-perception. When you need a deal to close because you're desperate, the other party has leverage over your financial state. When you need someone to stay in your life because you are terrified of their absence, they have leverage over your emotional stability. The need creates the exposure. The exposure creates the vulnerability. The vulnerability creates the control. Most people spend their lives managing symptoms, trying to seem less desperate, trying to hide their need, trying to project confidence while internally panicking. But that is still slavery. It is just dressed in better clothes. The actual solution is not to perform non-neediness. The actual solution is to structurally reduce genuine dependency. To build your life such that no single person, no single outcome, no single approval is the difference between your psychological stability and your psychological collapse. Multiple income sources. Multiple social nodes. Multiple areas of competence and identity. When no single person holds the last key to your house, no single person can lock you out. The man who can walk away from any table without looking back, not because he is performing indifference, but because he has built a life where walking away costs him less than staying on bad terms, that man operates from a different plane entirely. Write this down. Desperation is not a feeling. It is a structural problem. Solve it structurally. When you are not dependent, you cannot be leveraged. And when you cannot be leveraged, the game changes. Every game changes. Number 2, control the frame, and you control the reality of every interaction. Before a single word is spoken, a frame exists. A frame is the unspoken set of assumptions about what this interaction is, who has authority within it, what the stakes are, and what the acceptable range of responses looks like. Whoever establishes the frame first, consciously or unconsciously, controls the conversation before it begins. Think about the last time someone walked into your space projecting absolute certainty. Not arrogance. Certainty. They moved differently. They spoke at their own pace. They responded to questions without rushing. And something in you, something primal and social, quietly recalibrated. You became slightly more deferential without consciously deciding to. You adjusted your energy to match their frame. Because the nervous system reads authority signals before the conscious mind begins to analyze. This is how weak men get dominated by other weak men who simply perform confidence better. The performance works because the audience is unconscious. Here is the scenario. You walk into a negotiation. The other person opens by talking fast, creating artificial urgency, throwing numbers at you, making the space feel compressed. Most people react. They feel the pressure. Their thinking narrows. They respond to the urgency that was constructed for them. They are already in the frame before they understand what frame they've entered. The counter is not to outperform urgency. The counter is to refuse the frame entirely. To slow down. To pause before speaking. To respond to what you choose to respond to and ignore what was designed to destabilize you. To operate as if you have unlimited time and zero emotional investment in the other person's emotional weather. You are the climate. They are the temperature. Temperature responds to climate. Climate does not respond to temperature. Burn this into your mind. He who reacts first, loses first. Reaction surrenders the frame. Response from stillness establishes it. Stop reacting. Start operating. Number 3. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is pressure. The average person is terrified of silence in social interaction. It feels like a verdict. Like something went wrong. Like they failed. And so they fill it, with words, with explanations, with nervous laughter, with unnecessary elaboration. Every word they produce in that panic is a signal. Every signal is information. Every piece of information is leverage handed to whoever is watching clearly. Machiavelli understood this. Strong men throughout history have understood this. You do not reveal your position before necessary. You do not explain your thinking to people who will use the explanation as ammunition. You do not justify yourself to those who have already decided their position. Justification is performance for an audience. And performance is vulnerability. The person who speaks less knows more about the room than the person who speaks most. The one who asks a question and then simply waits, holds the space open, lets it breathe, lets the other person feel the weight of the silence, almost always receives more information than they ask for. Because most people cannot tolerate a vacuum. They will fill it. They will over-explain. They will reveal the thing they were trying to conceal. They will negotiate against themselves. You have watched this happen. Someone asks a question, the other person answers, and then, because the first person said nothing, the second person keeps talking. Adds qualifications. Reduces their own position. Becomes smaller. All because silence was read as disapproval or uncertainty, and the social anxiety of that reading produced unnecessary disclosure. This is not manipulation in the predatory sense. This is presence. It is what happens when you are genuinely still, when you are not performing, not anxious, not filling space because you are uncomfortable. When you are actually here, actually watching, actually thinking, your silence has texture. It has weight. People feel it. Comment, I move in silence. Speak when your words have value. Be quiet when your silence has power. Know which moment you are in. Number 4. Emotional reaction is a broadcast. Discipline your signal. Every time you display an uncontrolled emotional reaction, visible frustration, defensive anger, unconcealed hurt, you hand your opponent a map of your interior. You show them where you live. You show them what moves you, what threatens you, what you care about enough to lose your composure over. And anyone who wants leverage over you will file that information and use it precisely when it costs you most. This does not mean become numb. Numbness is not discipline. It is damage. The man who has shut himself off from feeling is not powerful. He is broken and calling it strength. True emotional discipline is the ability to feel fully and express strategically. To know what you feel and decide deliberately how much of it the room deserves to see. Here is what this looks like in practice. Someone insults you, directly or indirectly. The insecure man reacts immediately. He defends, he attacks, he justifies, he explains why the accusation is wrong. And in doing so, he confirms that the accusation found a target. His reaction is the admission. The disciplined man receives the insult, processes it internally, and responds, if he responds at all, from a place of total calm. Not cold. Calm. There is a difference. Cold is performative distance. Calm is actual groundedness. And actual groundedness does not argue with provocations. It observes them, files them, and continues moving. The rejection that once destabilized you, it still registers. But it does not govern your next move. The criticism that once made you defensive, you hear it, assess whether there is truth in it, and move accordingly. You are not being managed by your reactions. You are managing them. Say it with me. My emotions are information. They are not instruction. Feel everything. Show only what serves you. Part 5. Understand reciprocity and know when to violate it. Human beings are deeply wired for reciprocity. Give something, receive something.
Do a favor, be ouvido a favor.
Express warmth, receive warmth. This is a social stabilizer. It is how cooperation becomes possible, how trust is built, how relationships maintain equilibrium. And it is one of the most reliable mechanisms for control that exists. When someone does something for you, gives you a gift, a favor, a compliment, a piece of help you didn't ask for, the social pressure to reciprocate is enormous. Most people feel it physically. The sense that you owe something now. That refusing to reciprocate makes you the bad person, the ungrateful one, the one who violated the social contract. And sophisticated operators use this deliberately. They give small, a gesture, a kindness, an inclusion, and collect large. They manufacture obligation. They create a debt psychology in you before you understood the transaction had occurred. This is how influence is bought in corporate environments. How social hierarchies are constructed. How certain people end up owing favors to people they never consciously agreed to owe. The gift was always an investment. The question was whether the recipient understood that. The counter is not to refuse all generosity, that is paranoia, and paranoia is its own cage. The counter is to receive clearly. To notice when you feel obligation and to examine whether that obligation is legitimate or manufactured. To ask, did I ask for this? Did this serve me? Or was this given so I would owe? And when you give from a position of genuine choice, not as a preemptive investment in someone's future compliance. Give because you choose to. Owe nothing by design. And when someone attempts to collect a debt you never consciously incurred, decline without guilt. The guilt is the trap. Guilt about social debt is engineered. You are not obligated by the generosity you never requested. If this resonates, subscribe. More of this is coming. Part 6. Scarcity is not about resources. It is about perception. Whatever is easily available is valued less. Whatever is rare is treated as precious. This is not economics, this is psychology. It operates in money, in status, in relationships, in attention, in respect. Whoever controls the perception of their own availability controls how they are valued. The man who is always available, always responding, always present, always eager, is taken for granted. Not because people are malicious. Because the psychology of value operates automatically. Abundance is background. Scarcity demands attention. This is why your consistent availability in a relationship produces predictability, and predictability produces complacency. This is why the colleague who is slightly difficult to reach is perceived as busier, more important, more in demand than the one who responds to every message within 4 minutes. The response speed itself signals a status position. The person who responds fastest assumes the lowest position in the interaction hierarchy. Every time. You do not withhold yourself to be manipulative. You structure your availability to reflect your actual value. You have priorities. You have a life that does not orbit any single person or situation. You respond when you choose to respond. You appear when your presence means something. Your time is not an unlimited resource being offered freely to whoever wants it. The man whose presence is earned, not easily given, not endlessly available, occupies a different position in every social dynamic. He is not chasing. He is not performing. He is simply operating from an accurate understanding of what his attention is worth. Burn this into your mind. Your time and attention are the most finite resources you possess. Treat them accordingly, and others will too. Stop being everywhere. Be somewhere that matters. Now we arrive at the part of this most people are not ready for. We arrive at the edge of what you came here to hear, even if you didn't know it yet. Everything before this has been mechanics. Useful. Applicable. Real. But mechanics without the identity upgrade that makes them permanent, that's just information. Information without transformation is noise. You need the change that makes all of this automatic. Not something you have to remember to do. Something you have become. And to get there, something has to die. That version of you that needed approval to feel stable, it has to die. The version that reacted to provocations because your ego couldn't absorb the hit, it has to die. The version that made yourself smaller in rooms where you felt uncertain, that over-explained, that apologized for taking up space, that performed ease while internally collapsing, you execute that version. Today. Here. It does not get to come with you. This is not metaphor. This is the actual psychological process of identity reconstruction. When you carry the old version into new behavior, you create a man in contradiction, a man who knows the principles but still flinches, still needs, still reacts, still performs. Half-changed is not changed. It is just confused. The old identity is a liability. It was built by an environment that did not have your best interests in mind. It was built by other people's expectations, by systems that needed your compliance, by relationships that required your diminishment. It was assembled out of fear. And fear-built identity will collapse under pressure every time, because it was designed for survival, not for power. You burn it. You stop asking for permission to be who you are. You stop performing competence for the approval of people who have not earned the right to evaluate you. You stop seeking validation from external sources to confirm what you should already know about yourself. That hunger, the hunger for someone outside yourself to say you are enough, to say you matter, to say you've done well, you starve it. Not cruelly. With intention. You replace it with something that does not depend on anyone else's behavior to function. That version of you must die. Not because it was weak, it did what it had to do with what it knew. But it is obsolete now. You have seen something it could not see. You cannot unsee it. And you cannot carry it forward while also carrying this. The shedding is not painless. Real transformation never is. Dying to one version of yourself feels like loss, because it is. You lose the comfort of reactivity. You lose the familiar anxiety that felt like presence. You lose the emotional noise that you mistook for aliveness. What replaces it is quieter, stiller, more dangerous. Not dangerous to others, dangerous to the conditions that once held you. You stop being manageable. You stop being readable. You stop being a predictable instrument in other people's dynamics. You become the still point around which other people's energy moves. Not cold. Grounded. Not distant. Untouchable. This is who you are now. You are the man who understands that every interaction has a frame, and you choose yours before the conversation begins. You are the man who does not broadcast his vulnerabilities to rooms that have not earned that knowledge. You are the man whose silence carries more weight than most men's speeches. You are the man who can sit across from manufactured urgency and feel nothing but clarity. You are the man who gives nothing to provocation and everything to purpose. You do not perform strength. You have built the actual conditions for it. You cannot be leveraged without your dependency. You have removed the dependency. You cannot be manipulated without your need for their reaction. You have starved the need. You cannot be controlled without your predictability. You have ended the predictability. The law of psychological leverage now operates for you, not on you. This is not the end of the learning. This is the beginning of the operating. Comment: I am the frame. You came here as someone who thought they were free. You leave knowing what freedom actually requires. Not comfort. Not permission. Not an audience to confirm you. Just this, a mind that sees clearly, a will that moves deliberately, and an identity that no longer needs the world's approval to know its own weight. That man cannot be owned. Become him.